I don't talk about this too incredibly often, but I got the impetus to talk about it recently. I found the impetus to talk about this recently due to a video that recently popped up, and I got mentioned in it. And I thought it was quite interesting, okay? So, last time I really talked about like black people like this, and I'm putting air quotes because, you know, it's more like a community thing, less of a like black people thing really, was when we debated like Endless Cemetery, and he like disagreed with me on some like stuff, right? I reference that debate every now and again, but I think it's indicative of little underbelly there of things that were going on that I think there are important to talk about every now and again. So this is the video that dropped. Take a look at this really quick, right? We're not going to be watching all of this. I don't want to like watch their video on stream. That, and it's not Twitch TOS friendly, so I couldn't even watch it if I had honestly really wanted to. But I thought it was interesting, and if you want to watch the video, you should go and watch it on their channel yourself. I think his name is Tirrrb. Tirrrb, is that how I pronounce his name? Their name, Tirrrb. I think it's Tirrrb, something along those lines. What even is Twitch TOS? Listen, I'll tell you when you're older, okay? Look at this.
Now, when I talk about black people being used as instruments,
what?
I guess you watch the video first, so like 10 seconds on top of the video. Now, when I talk about black people being used as instruments, I mean y'all dunk on us more than you support us, and that's just a fact. There's more diversity in the black people that you're dunking on than the black people you're working with, and that's an issue. I wouldn't correlate this to tactics used in the debate sphere, where white streamers just openly use other black leftists they don't agree with as content farms, and then tokenize shark, but nevertheless it's still anti-black, just in an I'm not touching you kind of way. So
okay, so hey, shark mentioned. Hey, we don't get mentioned in these videos very often. I am a part of the community, but we do not get mentioned. We kind of get like skimmed over pretty hard when it comes to this stuff. That's my only mention in the video, just so you know, or any mention to me or any of the work that I do in this community. That's kind of it, really. That's like basically that's literally it. But with that being said, I thought this was interesting. They got me thinking a little bit. I mean, you never get into any drama ever. That is true, because we're on our permanent good boy arc. Something that a lot of other streamers could only possibly wish of being on. We have it in spades. It's called our permanent good boy arc, where we're like typically just kind of a good boy. And so people like being a good boy doesn't always generate clicks, but they listen. You don't hear about me very often, but you have heard of me. Sometimes. It got me thinking a little bit, okay? Because I think they're right to an extent, right? I think tokenizing or token is just kind of one of those words, honestly, that gets thrown around a lot that people don't necessarily know the definition of without looking it up. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're here in chat, just go ahead, give it a try. Give me a definition without looking it up. Give me a definition of what tokenizing a person means, or like somebody being token means. Does anybody know? Do you have like even when you hear that word, do you know what its definition is? Assuming it's on the lines of one of my black friends. A bit, not exactly. The real definition of tokenizing would be to somebody to be a part of a group, but only for the illusion of diversity or them being more progressive than they actually are. That's what tokenizing actually means, right? For somebody to like be there in that group specifically only because to like look more diverse or something when you're actually not, right? And I think, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think this is why I don't get talked about or get removed from these conversations a decent amount. This is why I genuinely believe I get removed from a lot of, or like not mentioned in any of these conversations a lot, because a lot of these types of people, I'm not saying like this person, but a lot of people who I've like interacted with, who I think like look in this space a little bit, will think that I'm like pretty tokenized as like somebody here. And I think that can be true to an extent, but in like different ways, right? Nobody can tokenize me in this space. I'm in this space due to my own volition. I wasn't added on here. I'm not like, I rarely really interact with a lot of other creators, and they come to me more than I go to them, really. And I deny working with a lot of people all of the time. If I'm going to be completely honest, I like working by myself a lot, and I'm very happy and I'm very successful doing that. So Nobody tokenized me to be in this like kind of debate space. I'm here by myself. That being said, there are absolutely people who like try to tokenize me in this space, or when any of this stuff gets brought up, I'm just kind of like I've said before, I kind of get like thrown as like a Negromon. Like, whoa, boom, go, look, it's Shark. He is here too, which is true. I am here, and I do think I deserve to be a part of these conversations, but sometimes it's either I get excluded simply because people think that I'm not really here based on my like own hard work or something. I'm here because like I'm here because they wanted me to be here. I'm like, I get viewers because like the white viewers want like, well, I don't want to be racist today. I guess I gotta tune into Shark today, which I don't believe happens very much, but it does happen. I do 100% know that. I don't think it happens that much, but we'll circle back around this because I don't talk about black issues as much or in the same way as a lot of these other channels do, but we'll circle back around that in a moment. Or because like I kind of been tokenized. This is a really weird thing that happened the other day. And I know almost none of you know about it. Or even if you're on Twitter, you don't know anything about it. I got like a random...
This meme is very real.
Thank you, Marjorie. I got a random mention on Twitter the other day. And it was these two people like arguing about like racism or something. And somebody said that they were using like oppression Olympics or something along those lines. Or they were like, hey, this like people of color agree with me, right? And then like the other person who was like arguing with them against like, I don't know, like some people in like the debate space or like something, some position that a lot of us like lefty streamers kind of like agree with. They were like, well, I have, well, as like Shark 300 said, he said this and I agree with it. And they're like, who the fuck is that? And then they just posted like a screenshot of me that they had saved on their phone. And I was scrolling through the conversation after it happened. I'm like, what the hell? And then and they like were talking some more, and then the person literally asked like, why do you keep bringing up this person? Because they kept like posting this picture of me every single time that they like made a point. And they're like, if you want to bring up like black people agreeing with you, I'll bring up one agreeing with me. I am not racist. And then they were like, what? And then they like were argued some more. And then instead of like they stopped even making an argument. They just started like just posting the picture of me just in response, which is just so weird. Tactical Shark screenshot, which is so weird. I'm not even joking. That does happen. And it did happen. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen in my entire life, but it was insane, right? It was completely ridiculous. Like 100% completely ridiculous. That's it. That is insane. It is completely insane, right? So I know that this happens, and I know that it's true. And I know that people go to me for some like black history or something, right? I do know this for a fact. Here's something that I always found incredibly interesting. As being like kind of like a black like debate bro in this space or something, somebody who's open to debates, who does debates every now and again. Not super recently, mostly because I haven't had people ask for them, and I've been kind of doing my own thing. I just haven't had time for debates really. I've been planning a lot of segments and doing a lot of things, so it just kind of fell behind. And the fact that like nobody's really like asked or like reached out or anything is like a big part of that necessarily. Or nobody, like not many people. Somebody did recently, but that we're gonna get off track if we get onto that too much. I said this on the Bird app, but sometimes I feel like I get the worst of both worlds because it's just incredibly strange that like my position in some of these spaces is like questioned due to my race, honestly. And it's just weird. Or I'm like seen as, because like I don't agree. I feel like in a weird like middle spot between the like video essayist bros or something and the video essay perverts and like the debate perverts. And I'm not saying this as like I'm some sort of like centrist or something, because I'm not a centrist. And I don't believe in almost any political position I hold can I accurately be described as a centrist in like almost any regard, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But I'm in the middle of this kind of like weird quagmire, really, between these two like kind of like weird factions that are going on, and I don't necessarily think I fit entirely into either of them like super well. And it's got me thinking about my place a little bit, but also the place of like other black people in spaces, in this space and spaces adjacent. I am basically one of a kind. And I'm not saying that as like I'm sort of like some super like special boy or something. I'm mommy's special boy. I'm saying that in the sense of I am genuinely quite unique in this space. There's not many people doing it like me who look like me. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't really know anybody even with like a sizable percentage of my size or ability in this space doing something similar to me. I don't see myself reflected very often, which is not necessarily super surprising. There aren't necessarily even that many black people in the country, right? Let alone who are in the position to be doing this and even like the wants to be doing this. A lot of my other like black contemporaries are off playing video games or they're doing or like making music or doing something else. I'm very rare in this space and I'm basically a part of an endangered species. I think, as far as I remember, and you can let me know, I am the largest left-wing black debate bro, I guess. It like here, right? As far as I know, I don't know anybody else who's like even like close to my size when it comes to like relevance and like YouTube subs and everything. I hate to like, I hate to toot my own horn a little bit, but when it comes to this conversation, it is important for what I have to say like next, right? I feel a bit like of some obligation to do some things when it comes to talking about some issues or being a part of like some conversations, even if I don't necessarily want to. And I see this, and it's really interesting because when it comes to our like video essayist contemporaries, and I talked about this while I was watching the FD and Kaidology kerfuffle that was going on, the debate conversation that they had, and the little like, and how I talked about I'm an observer, okay? I don't really get into like that many like fights or anything. I don't like directly get involved in that much discourse. For one, I have other things that I like to be doing, and two, I just don't care to get involved that super often. I don't feel like my voice is necessarily needed all the time. But sometimes I feel like I should speak up on something, even though I don't necessarily want to. I do have something to say, but having something to say, should be saying it, and need to say it are like three incredibly different things. And if like one of those things don't necessarily line up with the type of like discourse that's going on, I'll typically just stay silent, because not because like I'm scared of like any like cancel culture has come for me or I'm gonna get kicked out of the space or something. Nobody can kick me out of the space. I made everything that I have, I made myself, and no one can take it away from me but myself, period. End of story. Right? I couldn't care less what other like debate bros or like people in this space or like other lefty streamers could possibly think about me. They could all hate me and hate my guts, and they could all be calling me like the N-word or something behind closed doors in their little white lefty Twitter group chats. But it like that'd be shitty and that'd be bad, and I wouldn't want to associate with them. But they wouldn't be able to take anything from me. I'm still me, and all my work is because of like the work that I put in here. Period. That's the end of the story. But I've been seeing something. I'd like to call it like the black pigeon effect or something along those lines, right? The black pigeonhole. It's interesting to me because when I see a minority creator, they're almost never just a creator, at least to like the sort of like niches that they're in. And I think it's kind of a problem that creators aren't allowed to just kind of be minority creators aren't allowed to just be like creators anymore. They're not creators. They're insert identity creators, right? Not saying that's their fault or that's necessarily bad. My problem is like the pigeonhole that comes with, right? So I remember like talking to FD and everything, and him being like, we mostly make content for like mostly white audiences, and most of these communities are filled with white people. And that's incredibly true. Especially when it comes to like culturally aware white people or like progressive-y white people. These types of people will want to feel the need to hear voices of like minority groups, right? And I think that's good, okay? And a lot of people talk about that to like raise up some of these black creators. My problem comes in that I've been thinking of is that we're not raising up these black creators or like these minority creators simply because they're good. We're raising them up because of their of like who they are, and we're watching them because of who they are. Now, I want this to be clear. I don't want this to be like confused with saying that the black people in these spaces don't deserve to be there. They do. What I'm talking about is how they're viewed in the eyes of the audiences that they're a part of, okay? So stick with me. We're gonna wrap back around, and I feel like it's going to be way more understandable once we get to it. Okay. We all peepo. So true. At the end of the day, we all peepo. It doesn't matter what your skin tone is, because underneath we're all green peepo. So true. So true. But better words have never been spoken. Better words have never been spoken. So in my talk with Endless, what happened is that I remember like one of the big things is that he asked me some, what I believe was like a really odd question, which was, is like being black a large part of your identity to you? And the answer to that is no. And it's still no. And I think for as long as I live, it'll almost always be no. The reason being is not because it's a sort of like, I'm not black, I'm shark type thing. That's not true. I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form. What the reason is because like my identity just isn't a massive part of like who I am when I think about who I am, right? When I thought about getting into this space, I would never really thought about, I'm black, I should be in this space. I want to talk about black issues because I'm black and I'm black in this space. That wasn't why I got into this. I actually got more into this because I love talking to myself. And I always talk to myself. And I basically do exactly what I do when it comes to reacting to the videos, just sitting at my chair, but without anybody being there. So to seem a little less insane and to make, just to seem a little less insane, I decided to like stream while doing it. That, and if I'm going to do it, I might as well make at least a little bit of money from it, you know, at least like a try, right? But a lot of these black people in these spaces, I see them as, and I feel like a lot of like their white audiences and like a lot of the white people in their audiences, and even me as well, right? Because I think it's hard to like, or near impossible to escape it. See them as like the minority creator. There's like normal creators, and then there's my minority creators. And so I love my normal creators because they're like fun and entertaining and they do wacky and cool and fun stuff. And I love my minority creators because I go to them to learn about minority things. And then once I'm done learning at their little lecture, I waddle myself back over to the actual entertaining stuff. We're back to like the normal place. They like make a little pit stop at like Negro Land, at Transylvania, at like my Minority Central. But it's only a pit stop, really. It's kind of like a passing stop that you make on your way to your destination. It's a detour for what you're really there for. And I find it that when some of these creators get out of their spaces, because it reminds me a lot of like the gaming space necessarily when it comes to, have you ever seen a creator like a YouTuber or a streamer or something along these lines whose like main thing is playing literally one game? One game is their bread and butter. One game is what they do. It could be Fortnite, it could be Minecraft, it could be Apex, it could be, you know, basically anything, right? They play that one game. It's their game. They're known for the game. They're tied to the game. Their brand is integrated with the game. It is the game, right? They play like basically one game. Their main audience is there for that one game. And when they're not playing that game, have you ever seen what happens to some of these creators when that game dies, or when they move along from that game, or even worse sometimes if they get banned from that game? Have you seen something along those lines happen? And then what happens to their audience? The audience that they had, vanish, gone, in a snap, overnight. Because their brand was tied to that like one thing that they were doing. And once they step out of that, it's just kind of, nobody really cares to speak about them anymore, or like visit them anymore, something along those lines. And so it kind of like makes it a little bit of an issue when it comes to some of these creators. When I see some of these creators, I think about them in this kind of like context that a lot of people go to them for their like minority stuff. I go to the trans creator to talk about, oh, what shitty thing happened to trans people this week, right? Or I go to the black creator to hear about this shitty thing that happened to black people this week, right? And that's basically it for why you show up. And if that changed, I feel like a lot of those audiences wouldn't show up for them anymore, or as much anymore, or for certain things anymore. The black pigeonhole that they're kind of known for talking about their minority status is why a lot of people show up for those things, or why they got their notoriety. And it makes me sad because my whole like job would be talking about how much like it sucks to be me or something, or how bad people like treat me or something along those lines, which just kind of sucks. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks as a job. You know, if the only reason why I would ever have any like people to show up would be when I'm talking about when like another black guy got like strangled to death by police, I honestly may like quit to just work back at McDonald's. If I had the choice between that and working at McDonald's, I honestly may just like choose to just work at McDonald's, if I'm going to be honest. If I saw my viewership go from like concurrent like 400 to concurrent like 50 or something when I switched to like doing God knows whatever else, I'd be I don't know what I would like do to myself. Or honestly, like I don't know what I'd do with myself. That sounds like that sucks, right? And so on this note, to me, my blackness isn't important for myself when I think about myself, not because I don't think it's important, but because it's not that important to me. I wouldn't change my race if I had the option to. I'm fine with who I am, and I have no want or no need to change it. That being said, I understand how I'm seen and how I'm looked at and how my like appearance and how my like or like, you know, my heritage and everything means to the people who see me. It's kind of hard to miss that I'm black, I must say. It typically doesn't happen. And so I know it's important for how I'm like perceived, but how I perceive myself, these are two incredibly different things. And the way in which I carry myself, I think, kind of goes with that, mostly because I grew up on a military base. I grew up on many military bases, really, from like Fort Bragg to Fort Knox to like whatever fort was in fucking New York or something, or whatever. I bounced around to a lot of these places, and obviously the military is reasonably diverse. And so even in places like Missouri or Kentucky, I had like a large amount of minority kids who were like around me at all points in time, filtering in and out all the time. And so it's kind of hard for me to be like I was, but it's hard. It was not as often as I think for some other black kids to be like the only black kid in the room or anything, or to even be in the position to necessarily be tokenized, because we're filling up the ranks, right? There's a lot of us here. There are a lot of us here, but I do know that there are people who will be going to me if anything like happens around black people, who will be going for me to hear like the black guy's voice about the black people thing, because I'm the black guy. So you got to hear about me. I'm the black guy in the space. So you got to hear about what the black guy has to say about the black thing, or else you're fucking racist, because what, you don't care about, you hate black people? You don't like black people's voices or something? And so I would like to say this, and I'd like to extend something out here. If you only followed me, if you remember following me, subscribing to me, and you're like, yo, black guy who's in this space too, I gotta keep up with him, unsubscribe, unfollow me. And I'm not saying that unfollow and unsubscribe because like you're a bad person or I don't like you or something, or even that thought process is necessarily wrong. What I want you to do is unsubscribe, unfollow, and then rediscover the content, and then rediscover me, and think about why you're even a part of this community, or why you even listen to me in the first place. Is it because you come here to hear like the black guy's voice and the black guy thing, black guy's voice and the black thing, or is it because you genuinely enjoy the content and you think that I'm somebody genuinely worth listening to? Not to fill up the black quota of listening to like certain voices, but because you think my voice is genuinely valuable. And if the answer is no, then goodbye. My voice isn't going to be changing anytime soon. And if the voice is, then welcome back. That's kind of it. And I don't want this to seem like all of these other black creators, I'm the only real black creator. Or if the way that some of these people run their communities or anything are wrong. I can't say that they're wrong. If they're happy and they're enjoying themselves and they love the content that they're making, who am I to tell them that they're wrong? I'm just some dumbass with a microphone at the end of the day. And any other streamer who's going to tell you otherwise is probably lying to you, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But I really feel like it's unfortunate that in a lot of these conversations, we talk about how black people aren't integrated enough. I want to talk about how black people can be integrated in like the right reasons in these spaces. I don't really believe that I'm like tokenized that much. I believe that I am that much. I don't really know, especially since I pretty rarely interact with some of these people. But I feel like I'm excluded from these conversations for like similar reasons. And it does suck, right? Because it always comes back in to, am I being shouted out sometimes because I'm black, or am I being shouted out? I do. One thing I can say is that with all the criticisms of like the debate bro community, I will say that if some of these people are as like bad on like black issues as it comes out to be, I will say that at least that I know if they have some bad opinions about me, I'm here because they like my opinions and not because I'm black. Because if I wasn't, then they'd be pretty shitty to me and I wouldn't be like welcomed in these spaces at all. All right. So there's that at least, you know, you gotta see like the silver lining to all the clouds. All right. You gotta see at least the silver lining because it's there somewhere. Is it always there? No, but it's gotta be there sometime every now and again. Okay. I really enjoy your Joker moment vids. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. So I think I get like the worst sides of being a part of this space, that I get included and excluded in like really strange ways. And I get talked about or just completely ignored in like really strange ways as well. I have my agreements and I have my disagreements with like everybody in these spaces. And I make them well known, right? Like I don't talk about all my disagreements, but if I have a disagreement and it comes up and it's worth talking about, then I'll talk about it. Like I don't hide any of my disagreements with any of these creators. I have several videos on my channel of me disagreeing with Vosh. Even like I think probably my biggest video about Vosh video, I think like even there like the Professor Flowers debate, I didn't disagree with everything that he said, but I did disagree with at least some ways that he went about the debate and some things that he said. I disagreed with him in that video. I had my disagreements with him in that video. One of my most like popular videos about with him in it. Really. I think I'm a pretty unique person in this space. And so that's why I think my voice is like genuinely like worth listening to in this space. I hope everybody who speaks is, because if you're not, please shut up. Because if you can't even be your own #1 fan, why the fuck should I be? You know? Vosh keeps rating you. I think he has a crush. Yeah, I know, right? That creep. That fucking old man. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Reminds me of your talk with FD about debate bros and the role of black creators do and don't have in this space. Yeah, it was definitely interesting, I will say, right? Because I'm not a part of Cornbread Tube, right? I talked about how I did some observing. I do some lurking. I do some observing. It's not stalking, but I do looking. I do give it a looky, and I do some observing. And as I said, I've been watching them create a little thing. It's basically called Cornbread Tube. It's a bunch of like black creators, black video essayist creators, kind of like doing their own thing together. Basically, I've been watching it. I'm not a part of it. I'm not even sure if I'd necessarily be welcome, but I think it's interesting, and I think those things are like needed. My problem is I just hate the idea of like having to deal with being like the pocket Negromon that you just kind of go to when you need to hear something about black issues. I want, like I've talked about this before, I want like all of you guys, no matter what your race is, to be able to talk about these issues without me. I want you all to have like great takes on this without me. I don't want to be talking about this all the time myself. I don't cover every big like black issues thing that's going on. I just don't, because I don't have the wherewithal to. I don't feel like it meets it like it's like something that I want to talk about, and I just don't add it on all the time. I just don't need to, right? It's just not something that I like to, do all the time. I have my own style of content, and I talk about things that interest me, and I talk about things that need to be talked about, and sometimes those two things, and sometimes one is like fulfilled without the other, and sometimes the other is fulfilled without the former, right? So some things are important, but I don't want to talk about them. And sometimes things I want to talk about, but may not necessarily be important, right? It's kind of how it is. Your trauma would be tied to your content. Yeah, no fun. Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun. Now, once again, I'm just a guy. Other people can like disagree and everything. And once again, if they enjoy their content, don't let me stop you. My problem is that I feel like we talk a lot about how black people are limited by like the algorithm, and black people are limited by like the other people in the space and some of the audiences. And I think that's all true and has merit. But I think we can also be limited by like how we feel, like the pressure to feel the need to fulfill a sort of role, perform like a role in these spaces. You know what I mean? In that video that we like saw a piece of, the author mentioned how like not too many black people, even in like the bigger black people, don't talk about like race issues that much or issues concerning black people that much. And it could be true that that could be like good. I'm not saying that it's good or bad to like want or push for them or even like think about them talking about some of these issues or even asking them to talk about some of these issues. I don't think that's wrong. And there could be a lot of value from that. My problem is like the pigeonhole of like, and the pressure that comes with, because after being in the space for long enough, I know the pressure that comes with talking about, not talking about, and basically being like the representative of your minority group for like a certain like community that you're a part of, especially if that's the idea that like I've heard FD and like other people talk about, like if you're not a part of that identity group, that you won't want to like debate or like really like engage in like hard-hitting conversations about some of these things because of the sort of like things that you believe when it comes to like debating like the humanity and everything, which I think are fine reasons. But I think that approach has limitations, right? With like FD's talk with Kidology. Do you guys know that like FD like before spoke to her and said, don't talk to Vosh and don't talk to Destiny, okay? It was like, don't talk to any of those goofballs, those fucking goobers. Don't speak to them, all right? Kidology was like, kind of weird, but okay. And then FD decided to speak to her, right? And then she brought up what I would like very easily describe as concerning views about trans people, at the very least. But then one was in this weird spot where he didn't want to like debate, but was too big and had too much of a platform to like not push back. And so what do you even do in that space if that's your like idea of going about the world? You know what I mean? What the fuck do you do? I couldn't even possibly imagine being in that space where you're now confronted with somebody who's like basically saying that JK Rowling is like based in epic and not wrong about anything that she says about trans people, right? And like saying some like questionable things about trans people and their role in society and everything, and like basically spitting a bunch of right-wing talking points about like trans people and like the transgenderism and everything. But then you're not trans, so you don't want to debate or talk about any of these issues. What do you do? And honestly, I think that he did the best he could, but that like ideology of like doing those things has its limitations, and we saw it very clearly there, stretched to its very like limits, if I'm going to be honest, because he couldn't debate her. And so he could like push back a little bit, but then he would have to forcibly end the conversation. But then she just won, right? In the eyes of everybody who was watching that, if you were like questionable about like trans issues, she won, period. She had like point after point after point after point after point. And then he was like, I don't want to debate this. I don't want to talk about this. I don't think you're wrong. You should like read up more. And then her going the classic kind of like politically illiterate take of, just because I disagree with you doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I haven't read enough. It just means that I disagree with you and I think you're wrong or something. You know, whatever her, whatever she sounds like, right? And then what does he do then? He's stuck. He's literally stuck. He did the only thing that he really could do, which is just kind of change the conversation at that point, which sucks because I feel like, and this is why I think he said earlier in that conversation how he wanted to like get some of those things in. To talk about, to be able to do that, because being able to counter those talking points succinctly, and it reminds me of the conversation that I had with him. I think the first or second conversation that I ever had with him, that it doesn't matter if you want to debate or don't want to debate. It doesn't matter if you think you're good at it or bad at it. This is an incredibly important skill that you need to be able to do, because like it or not, you're going to get into a conversation where you're going to have to debate these things. Conservatives have no problem, or conservative leaning people have absolutely no problem just spewing whatever they have to say about certain topics and like rattling off their like NPC dialogue tree talking points. And if you can't like be able to succinctly, effectively, and concisely dismantle those points, you can be put in a bad spot, especially if you're the one with like the bigger platform, which FD was. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued with me saying that he like that he is now like a bad trans ally or something, or like hates trans people or something. That's wrong. He cares a lot, and that's why he has that position. I just think it has its limitations. Same with like feeling the need to debate everything and everyone on anything ever. It has its limitations, okay? And as you can see, it can be very, very annoying and not get your point across, and could lead you to being even less, to looking even worse than if you just didn't open your mouth at all. Really. Shouldn't he have took the time to educate her on that? In my opinion, yes. I think he should have had his talking points. If I and on this, I don't even want to like before we move on this. And then because of that whole thing, literally 2 days later, she's on call with Destiny, and like the video is already uploaded 11 hours ago. Just like that. Because the reason is he wasn't able to answer any of her questions. Really, he wasn't able to answer literally any of her questions. Basically any of them. He was just like, I'll DM you some trans people to talk about it with, I guess. And then she went, well, if this guy isn't going to answer any of my questions, I might as well talk to someone who's very open to talking about any all of these issues. And she did. And then like 2 days later, now she's on stream with Destiny, right? So look at that one meme. And then they had like a talk about him, and they had to talk about trans people, I'm quite sure. Probably waiting until 18. Yeah, and they had like a talk about trans people as well, right? And I have to say, whatever you think about Destiny, if you don't believe that his takes on trans people are like that good, I believe that you should be there as a counter to be able to do better. Nobody's perfect. And so if you think he sucks or shit or something, then be better. I personally believe, and I've taken this position a long time ago, if you hate him, I'm knocking over things on my desk. Be better. Be better than him in every regard. Just be better than him in every regard. There's no need to like complain or anything. Just be better than him. You know, it's possible. You can do it. You just have to want to get there. And that even is in regards to debate as well. Just get to be better than him. That's what I think personally. Like for me, it's my same position when it comes to the left. Like we don't have to like kill conservatives or something. We have to be better than them. Better at them than rhetoric, better at them than debate, better at them when it comes to policy, better at them when it comes to helping people, better at them with getting our voices out, better at them than organizing, better at them than protesting, better at them with propaganda, better at them than with everything. Just be better. Just be better. Right? I think we can do it because we're the left. We're just right. So act like it. That's just my personal opinion. And if I would have been able to advise him before he even like spoke to Kidology, I think I would have been able to completely see this coming. I would have been able to see all of this coming because he called her transphobic before. She has very strong opinions about trans people in her opinions, and she's very confident in them. He said not to talk to Destiny, and then she went to go talk to Destiny. This is like the most like one-to-one. I can see everything happening here. I could see everything happening here from like a mile away before any of this type of stuff happened. Any of it happened, okay? I think I may even called it out in the video. I think him and like everybody, they have like really big hearts and everything. And I like really respect them for caring so much. And I do appreciate a lot of their content, or almost all of their content, honestly. I just think it sucks a lot for a lot of like us, like minority creators, to be like so heavily pigeonholed into needing to be like the outlet to like our own, like the outlet for like the normal communities to get like the real tokenization, which is to be like, I only go to them for like my daily dose of like black issues, my daily dose of transgender issues, my daily dose of woman issues, all these types of things, and not integrate into these communities wholly to be indispensable parts of these communities, not simply because of like how we look or the type of content that we make in pertaining to our identities, but based solely on the fact that we are an integral pillar of these communities in every way, shape, and form. I think that would be an amazing thing for all of us to do. That would lead us out of the pigeonhole that we've been put in, honestly, by the communities that we're in, to talk about these issues, to like the black issue, right? Because I remember, right, even like the hippy dippy like Rumble roundtable, Dylan's old like podcast and everything, Dylan's old like debate panel and everything. I was 100% added on. I'm not going to lie to you. Or like a big portion of why I was added on to some of these issues was because I'm black, right? Dylan got a lot of shit for some of the diversity issues on the panel, and I'm going to tell you this now. I feel like I would be, now not many and maybe not all of them, but I would have been brought on to hippie to be less if I was not black, period, right? And I think that sucks because am I there because or like it, like the calculation would come out to be me being lower probability of showing up on these panels simply because I'm not black, right? Which sucks. Am I really here because like I'm based in epic and red pilled, or am I here because we gotta fill out the diversity chart? You know what I mean? Sucks. So wrap up. Basically, tokenization is real, and minorities do get mistreated in these communities. I feel like some of it can be a little self-imposed with the pigeonhole that we put ourselves into to need to put our like minority and like marginalized status as like the focal point of our content that makes us like one trick pony content creators that if things changed would change how our jobs would be like profitable, would even work at all. And I think that is sad and sick, right? Because I want to see more minorities succeed. I want to see another one of me. Thankfully, I have a lot of like people in my DMs who are like, you've inspired me to, as like a black creator, to be like a creator in the space, to get started in the space, to do things in the space. And I think that's an amazing thing. I'd love to see there being more of me. I'd love to be like a bit of a trailblazer here, right? And it kind of just happened that way. It was just like happenstance that this is something that I wanted to do, and I just happened to be black as along with it. And I appreciate all of you for allowing me to be your streamer, but I want to be your streamer, not because of like, you know, who I am and everything, and even though it is very important, because I like what I do and how good I am at it. And if I gain or lose subs or something because of that, it kind of is what it is. For me personally, what I do is more important than my own personal advocacy for myself, if I'm going to be honest. And I don't want to be added in any other spaces because of those reasons. If like other black people would like to take that like mantle to be there and for that to be like them and their like thing, I say Godspeed, and they are doing a good thing. Just for me personally, I don't want to. I would be upset and unhappy in that space, and I would like to make sure, simply because I wouldn't be happy in that space does not mean that those people are wrong or doing something bad or worth like demeaning them for. In completely different. No, not at all. I think they're doing an amazing thing, and it's amazing the type of content that they make. But like everything that we do online, there are downsides to it. That's the main reason why I want to talk about this. I thought it was interesting and very rarely talked about when it comes to these types of things, about how pigeonholed and honestly kind of like segregated we are in these spaces as like the minority voice, right? And it kind of sucks.
This meme is very real.
Thank you, Marjorie. Very true and very real. Come here. Come here. Oh. Hi. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it. Thank you, Boo.